We open on a freezing battlefield that looks like a snow globe from hell. Bodies are scattered everywhere. Swords are stuck in the frozen earth. And standing in the middle of this mess is an intimidating older man with long hair. Crawling toward him is our main character, Ash. He's bleeding out, clutching his side, and looks like he just went 12 rounds of a meat grinder. But this isn't some heartwarming, dramatic family reunion. The older man is Roderick Elmheim, Ash's dear old dad, and Ash is here for blood. Why? Because Ash just figured out his entire military expedition was a giant, family-sanctioned trap. His whole squad was treated like disposable cannon fodder. Now, you think a dad might show a little remorse. No, Roderick looks at his severely injured son with the enthusiasm of a guy staring at a soggy piece of toast. He flat out calls Ash a wingless failure, confirming that Ash was always meant to be used and tossed in the trash. Father of the Year award, right here. Let's hit the rewind button for a second to understand how messed up this is. In this world, power is everything, and it's measured by magical crests called wings. The House of Elmheim is basically the military top dog of the continent. Leading the pack is Roderick, who casually flexes 7 wings, the absolute pinnacle of magic. Years ago, Roderick saved baby Ash from a blizzard. Ash spent his whole childhood trying to repay that debt, training his sword skills until his muscles screamed. But here's the kicker. Ash couldn't summon a single spark of magic, not even enough to light a match. His family literally called him wingless, and his siblings bullied him relentlessly. Classic evil sibling trope. Despite the hate, Ash kept grinding, thinking hard work would earn his father's love. Spoiler alert, it didn't. Back in the snow, Ash finally snaps, drowning in years of suppressed rage and the agonizing sting of betrayal. He charges at his so-called father with a furious battle cry. They bind him up with magical chains and proceed to literally dismember the poor guy. They hack off an arm and a leg, laughing the whole time about how a wingless wretch belongs crawling in the dirt. I mean, overkill much? If they're this insecure about a guy with 0 magic, maybe they're the weak ones. Lying broken in the snow, his life fading, Ash asks the one question we're all thinking. If you were just going to throw me away, why save me in the first place? Roderick kneels down, grabs Ash by the hair, and drops a bombshell that shatters whatever's left of Ash's sanity. He didn't save Ash out of the goodness of his heart. He wanted the dormant power of the 7 wings that was actually hidden inside Ash's body all along. And worse, he casually mentions that Ash's mother was just a convenient vessel to cook up this power. Ash is losing his mind, and his limbs screaming for answers. But before he can even process the fact that he was basically born as a magical Tupperware container, the fatal blow lands from the brothers. Even as he screams for the truth, everything fades to black. Man, talk about a brutal opening. As the darkness of death creeps in, Ash accepts his miserable fate, realizing his entire existence was just a sick power farming experiment for his father. But instead of the afterlife, everything goes blindingly white. Suddenly, the numb embrace of death is replaced by freezing cold air. Ash sneezes. He opens his eyes. He looks down and realizes he's packing some seriously chubby, tiny fingers. Yep, our fully grown, battle-hardened protagonist is now a literal baby. He looks over to see a woman lying lifeless next to him in the snow. Activating his search skill, because thank the Manwa gods he kept his stats, his eyes glow. He immediately picks up the sound of galloping horses and shouting soldiers. And what are these soldiers yelling? They're barking orders to find the stolen infant for Lord Roderick. The puzzle pieces violently snap together in Ash's adult mind. He remembers being rescued on a snowy night just like this in his past life. But it wasn't a rescue mission. It was a manhunt. Roderick wasn't playing the savior. He was hunting down Ash and his biological mother to steal the 7 wings power inside him. Ash realizes if he stays put, he's going straight back in the hands of the man who literally raised him just to slaughter him. So what does this absolute unit of an infant do? He refuses to be a tool again. With his tiny, burning limbs, baby Ash starts army crawling his way through a raging blizzard. He drags his tiny body through the snow with sheer, unadulterated willpower, leaving a literal trail of defiance behind him until exhaustion finally knocks him out. Luckily, a guy named Viscount High and his daughter stumble upon the scene. The Viscount looks at the massive trail in the snow and is utterly baffled. I mean, wouldn't you be? That's not a baby. That's a miniature Terminator. Ash slowly opens his eyes, seeing a bright light. For a split second, he thinks an angel has come to take him to heaven. Nope, it's just the terrifying, gigantic face of a noble girl staring down at him. He's lying on a soft bed, surrounded by a group of giant noble daughters who are absolutely losing their minds over how cute he is. One with fiery red hair is reaching out to violently pinch his cheeks. To them, he's an adorable living doll. To a traumatized adult man trapped in a baby's body, this is pure psychological horror. Anyone who grew up with annoying older sisters knows exactly the kind of inescapable doom Ash is feeling right now. Ash decides he's not sticking around to be a plaything. He scrambles across the floor as fast as his little baby knees can carry him, but the girls just think it's a hilarious game of tag. As they close in to grab him, Ash's pure survival instinct kicks into overdrive. He pushes hard, praying for something to happen, and boom, a dormant magic awakens. A massive golden aura explodes around his tiny body. Wait a minute. The wingless boy suddenly is top-tier magic. Gravity completely clocks out. Ash shoots straight up into the air, leaving the girls grasping at thin air. He rockets toward the high ceiling, blasting right outside into the open sky. For a glorious few seconds, it is the most exhilarating feeling in the world. He actually has power, but there's one tiny, fatal flaw. He's a baby, and this mana burst is wildly unstable. Just as fast as the golden aura appeared, it flickers and completely dies out. Physics returns to the chat with an absolute vengeance. He's literally thinking, are you kidding me? Am I really about to die a second? Infinitely more embarrassing death. Gravity is undefeated, folks. But just before he goes splat and turns this manwine to a tragedy, the impact never comes. Instead of hitting the tiles, he's effortlessly plucked out of the air by a strong, gloved hand. Someone just caught him like a rogue baseball. Baby Ash blinks, his golden eyes locking onto his savior. It's a distinguished, silver-haired man with a ridiculously sharp beard, wearing top-tier noble drip. And then, the realization hits our boy like a freight train. This isn't just some random Good Samaritan. This is Viscount Hyfried Elmheim, the older brother of Duke Roderick. Yes, the older brother of the evil father who literally just had him butchered in his past life. Talk about an awkward family reunion. In Ash's original timeline, Hyfried was an absolute legend, one of the twin wings who protected the royal family, but history books say he died tragically in a civil war. Yet, here he is alive, breathing, and holding our regressed protagonist. Hyfried's wife, an elegant woman with warm auburn hair, rushes over. She's frantic, explaining that the baby's magic just randomly went haywire. She scoops the baby up and hugs him tight. For the first time in his two miserable lives, Ash experiences genuine, warm, motherly love. He is absolutely shell-shocked. He doesn't even know how to process this feeling. But Hyfried interrupts the tender moment. He needs his wife to see exactly what just fell out of the sky. He gently pulls back the fabric of the baby's clothes to reveal his back. There it is. Etched right into his tiny infant skin is a complex, crimson tattoo, the mark of the 7 wings. Seeing that crest immediately triggers a violent wave of PTSD for our boy. His mind flashes right back to the agony of his previous life, remembering Duke Roderick's cold, predatory eyes as he plotted to harvest this exact power. Panic instantly takes over. He fully expects Hyfried to pull out a magical carving knife right then and there. He thinks he's jumped from the frying pan straight into another Elmheim fire. But Hyfried's reaction completely shatters his cynical expectations. There's absolutely zero greed in the Viscount's eyes. Instead, he looks at the baby with a profound sense of duty. With a voice made of pure steel, Hyfried declares right there on the spot that he is adopting the child. He vows to be a shield for this little fledgling who can't fly yet, promising to protect him until the day he can soar on his own. Ash's mind is completely blown. Genuine kindness? In the Elmheim family? It feels illegal. Suddenly, the doors burst open, and the 2 giant sisters from earlier come tumbling into the room. Classic eavesdroppers. The Viscountess just laughs it off. Bursting with maternal joy, she decides it's time to name her new baby. She smiles down at him and calls him Aster, a name meaning a new star born into their family. Goodbye, discarded wingless Ash. Hello, Aster, the beloved son of the Viscount house. Time flows like a river, and boom, 10 years pass in the blink of an eye. The scene shifts from a cozy nursery to the sunlit, sprawling grounds of a majestic, high-class estate. Servants are lined up like soldiers, bowing respectfully as a luxurious carriage pulls up to the main entrance. Viscount Hyfried is standing there to greet it. He's got some gray in his hair now, but he still looks like an absolute unit. The carriage door swings open, and out steps a young man. It's Aster, He's only 10 years old, but he carries himself with the quiet, dangerous swagger of a full-grown adult. His dark hair is styled perfectly, and he's wearing a tailored outfit that screams main character energy. He turns back to the carriage, offering a hand with smooth, practiced chivalry. "Sister Alphen, watch your step," he says smoothly, as a beautiful young girl with flowing pink hair takes his hand and steps down with perfect grace. Our boy Aster has officially secured the bag and the ultimate glow-up. But with all this peace and luxury, you just know the original Elmheim family is going to crawl out of the woodwork eventually. Aster and his adoptive sister Alphen are walking through a bustling courtyard packed with the absolute elite of the martial aristocracy. Welcome to the Sword Dance Gathering, an annual flex fest hosted by the main Elmheim family. It's essentially a giant networking event where noble houses show off their heirs, swing some swords, and judge everyone else's worth. But for the Viscount's house, the vibe is straight up toxic. As Aster and Alphen walk through the crowd, the nobles don't even try to hide their trash talk. They are openly glaring, whispering that Viscount Hyfried humiliated the bloodline by adopting a stray of unknown origins instead of having a biological heir. They're treating Aster like dirt on their expensive shoes, calling his family a fallen branch that's dragging the glorious Elmheim name through the mud. Alphen is literally trembling with rage. She hates seeing her beloved brother and father slandered. But Hyfried just calmly points up at the towering, oppressive castle of the main Elmheim house. He looks at the boy he raised and asks a heavy question. "Are you disappointed?" He's testing Aster, seeing if the kid regrets being tied to their mocked family name. Aster doesn't give a polite, submissive, noble smile. Instead, a sharp, incredibly dangerous smirk spreads across his face. "No, father," he replies with chilling confidence. "This kind of cold reception suits me just fine." In his mind, Aster is flashing back to his original timeline. He remembers the pure agony of his first social debut, being spat on, mocked for being wingless, and lying broken on the floor while these same elites looked down at him with pity and disgust. But that was the old Ash. The new Aster has the legendary 7 wings literally thrumming through his veins. He's walking into this castle like a wolf in sheep's clothing, his golden eyes narrowing as he mentally challenges the room. "Let's make a spectacular social debut, shall we?" They enter the main arena where the clash of steel is already echoing. In this society, a warrior's worth is measured by 2 things: absolute power and undeniable splendor. Dominance is proven through swordsmanship, and glory is earned through fame. The fighters in the ring are going all out, swinging their blades with the explosive, fast-twitch power of a match-point badminton smash. And the ultimate symbol of both power and splendor, the wing crest. While Alphen is visibly shaken by the intimidating atmosphere, Aster is totally zoned out, thinking about the brutal loss to his older brother in his past life. Alphen snaps him out of it, asking if he's nervous. It's funny because she's clearly the terrified one. Hyfried suddenly announces he has a conference to attend and leaves Aster in charge of protecting Alphen. Instantly, Alphen puffs up her cheeks in pure indignation. She loudly reminds her dad that she's older by a whole year. Anyone with siblings knows exactly how real that older sibling pride gets. Aster just smiles and playfully roasts her for being clumsy. It's an incredibly wholesome moment. But the wholesome vibe dies instantly. Hyfried grabs Aster's shoulder, his face dropping into a deadly serious shadow. He leans in and whispers a chilling warning. "No matter what happens, do not let anyone discover the 7 wings." It's a literal life or death secret that adds a massive layer of stress to this already hostile gathering. The second Hyfried walks away, the invisible shield protecting them vanishes. The atmosphere in the room doesn't just get awkward, it turns openly, violently hostile. Aster looks around, and he can literally feel the room glowing with sheer malice directed right at them. With a heavy sigh, Aster decides there's no point in just standing there acting like target practice. He spots something across the room, pivots, and just starts walking. Alphen, who is understandably panicking at being left alone in this aristocratic snake pit, calls out to him. Aster casually glances over his shoulder and drops a cold, sarcastic line. "I'm going to make friends." He marches straight toward a velvet couch where a group of young noble guys are lounging like they own the entire continent. These dudes are the absolute textbook definition of spoiled arrogance. Sprawled out, drinks in hand, looking down their noses at literally everyone breathing their air. The red-headed leader of this little frat party barely even looks up. He demands to know who this random kid is. Aster doesn't even flinch. He flashes a perfectly polite smile, the kind that definitely doesn't reach his eyes, and introduces himself. "Greetings, Brother Darius. I am Aster F. Elmheim, your younger brother." Yeah, that greeting goes over about as well as a lead balloon. The guy next to Darius, Brian, smirks with absolute disgust. He leans over and whispers that this is the stray the Viscount house picked up. Darius finds this absolutely hilarious. He throws his head back and literally howls with laughter, mocking the F in Aster's middle name. He loudly jokes that it must stand for failure, ridiculing Aster for even having the absolute nerve to claim the Elmheim family name. But as Aster stares at Darius's laughing face, the memories hit him. It's revealed right here. Darius and Brian are the heirs to the main house. But more importantly, these are the exact same brothers who hacked off his arms and legs in his past life. Back then, when Aster was younger, weaker, and desperate for approval, these two guys looked like insurmountable, terrifying titans of cruelty. They were his worst nightmares. But right now, Aster looks at these guys lounging on their couch, trying so desperately to act tough, and his perspective completely shifts. With cold, detached clarity, he realizes they aren't monsters at all. Without his fear blinding him, the aura of terror is completely gone. They just look like pathetic, spoiled brats playing dress-up. Alphen hurries over, grabbing Aster's arm. She is visibly sweating, trying to drag him away, and whispering that they've said their hellos and need to leave right now. Darius spots Alphen try to hide behind Aster. He immediately targets her, his voice dripping with condescension. He sneers, asking if she's done hiding behind Daddy today, and then issues an order that makes your blood absolutely boil. He commands her to come over and entertain them, explicitly pulling rank and stating it's a direct order from the main house to the branch family. He is treating his own cousin like a common tavern servant in front of the entire aristocratic elite. Alphen freezes. You can practically feel the humiliation washing over her. But then, she finds her spine, shaking with anger. She firmly states that there is no master-servant relationship between their families. She turns to leave, trying to salvage her dignity, pulling Aster along. Aster feels her trembling hand and knows she's doing everything she can just to hold it together. But Darius doesn't handle rejection well. He decides to go for maximum emotional damage. With a cruel, twisted grin, Darius brings up the ultimate taboo, their father. He loudly recounts how Viscount Highfried failed to protect the king and was punished by having his arm severed by his own younger brother. Darius fakes a sigh of relief, thanking the heavens he doesn't have that loser's blood in his veins. That completely breaks Alphen. Tears streaming down her face, she screams at him to take it back. She lunges forward to defend her father's honor, but she never even gets close. With casual cruelty, Darius tosses the contents of his glass right into her face. Dark red liquid splashes across her pristine white dress. He stands there, eyes dead and cold, mocking her for causing a scene and whispering that next time she should wear rags so she won't mind getting wet. The main house heirs burst into uproarious laughter as Alphen stands there, stained, shivering, and utterly defeated. It is the absolute peak of aristocratic bullying. While Alphen is paralyzed by shame, Aster is just watching. He's not trembling. He's not crying. He's thinking. He admits to himself that on the way here, he was actually worried. He was worried that seeing the faces of the brothers who literally butchered him in his past life might not make him feel anything at all. But as he watches Darius and his cronies laughing and pouring another drink, a profound wave of relief washes over Aster. Why? Because seeing them act like this confirms one undeniable fact. They're still the exact same pieces of trash they always were. And that means he doesn't have to hold back. Aster places a comforting hand on his sister's shoulder. Then, he calmly walks right up to the velvet couch. "Hey, Darius," he calls out, casually tossing a bottle in the air. Darius looks up, confused, expecting an apology. What he gets is absolute chaos. In a blur of motion, Aster draws his weapon and smashes it straight through the glass bottle right in front of Darius's face. The impact is explosive. The bottle shatters and dark red liquid sprays everywhere, drenching Darius in an instant. The shockwave rattles the entire group. Darius is left sputtering, wiping the red liquid off his face in absolute terror because, for a split second, he thinks it's his own blood. He completely loses his cool, screaming in panic. Aster, however, is the picture of terrifying calm. He wipes a drop of the liquid from his blade, tastes it, and delivers the coldest line of the night. It's just grape juice. Perfect for little baby nobles. We suddenly smash cut to a chaotic flashback from 3 years ago. We are thrown into the middle of a blinding hurricane of golden energy. Aster is screaming, desperately trying to control his power, but it's wild, like a living beast trying to tear its way out of him. The sheer force is literally ripping the ground apart. His adoptive sisters are huddled on the ground, terrified, as debris flies everywhere. Hyfried is screaming at Aster to rein it in, realizing the terrifying reality of the 7 wings. It's a power so immense it threatens to consume everything, including Aster himself. Back in the present, a panicked servant bursts into the grand conference room, interrupting the adults' meeting. He drops a massive bomb. The sons of the main Elmheim house and the Branch family are currently dueling in the main arena. Viscount Hyfried's face goes chalk white. He knows exactly what this means. If Aster loses control like he did 3 years ago, or if he accidentally reveals the secret of the 7 wings to the main house, everything is over. They will all be executed. Hyfried bolts down the hallway, cape flying, sheer desperation in his eyes. He runs into Alphen, who is panicking, but it's too late to stop it. Down in the massive arena, the crowd is going wild. Darius is absolutely eating up the attention. He raises his sword, and it begins to glow with an intense, menacing red light. He loudly proclaims that a stray-born mutt is picking a fight with the Duke's house. Then, he flexes his status. A complex, glowing red pattern bursts from his hand and wraps around his blade. The crowd gasps. It's a 4-wing crest. That is a seriously high level of power for his age. Darius basks in the awe of the crowd, then points his glowing blade right at Aster. He taunts him, demanding to see Aster's crest, asking if the stray is too embarrassed to show his pathetic little pattern. Aster stands there, cool as a cucumber. He actually agrees with Darius. "You're right," Aster says smoothly. "Showing off a mere pattern so proudly is embarrassing. I couldn't do something like that." The disrespect is lethal. Darius's smug smile aggressively twitches before breaking into a scowl of pure, vein-popping rage. Aster raises the stakes. "If I win, you apologize to my sister." Darius snarls back, "Got it, cousin. But if I win, you become my dog. I'll work you to the bone." With that unhinged declaration, Darius explodes off the ground. He launches himself forward, his sword swinging with massive, magic-enhanced force. The clash begins. Sparks fly as steel meets steel. Darius is incredibly fast, his movements supercharged by his 4-wing crest. Aster blocks the heavy attack and gets pushed back, but his expression doesn't change. He glances at his hand. Darius's attacks are heavy, fueled by the raw, crackling power of his 4-wing crest. An aristocratic spectator watching from the balcony smirks, noting that while Darius's actual sword skills are pretty garbage, his overwhelming magic makes up for it. The guy explains it perfectly. If a normal magic user is a candle, Darius is a blazing bonfire. In this society, they believe raw magical muscle will always crush pure skill. Darius unleashes a massive barrage of glowing red slashes. The impact creates a massive explosion of dust and debris, completely engulfing Aster. Darius lands and immediately starts talking trash. He mocks Aster, asking where all that bravado went, and if he's still demanding that apology. But as the dust clears, the entire arena goes dead silent. Aster is standing right where he was. He doesn't have a single scratch on him. His eyes are glowing a piercing, unnatural gold. Darius completely loses his mind. Refusing to accept reality, he jumps high into the air, screaming that he's going to end this with his true power. He thinks Aster is blinded by the dust and goes in for the kill. Calm as ever, Aster simply mutters that Darius talks way too much. With a single, effortless flick of his wrist, Aster deflects the heavy finishing move and sends Darius flying backward like a discarded toy. As Aster begins gathering his own magic, we get a quick peek into his mind. For the last 10 years, Aster has done nothing but train in secret with Viscount Hyfried, learning to perfectly control his monumental power just for this exact moment of revenge. Every single step, every swing, every breath is precise and deadly. Aster goes on the offensive, and it is an absolute massacre. He brings his sword down, and Darius is forced to completely drop to one knee just to survive the weight of the blow. Gryan, Darius's younger brother, is watching from the sidelines with his jaw literally on the floor. This was never supposed to happen. Darius is sweating bullets, completely unable to comprehend how his genius four-wing magic is getting completely bullied by a wingless stray. Aster presses harder, showing zero pity. Why would he? This is the guy who humiliated his sister and literally chopped off his limbs in a past life. As Aster pours on the pressure, Darius's expensive, shiny sword actually begins to crack. The crowd is in absolute shambles, whispering in pure shock as the Duke's golden child gets dominated. But up on the balcony, Viscount Hyfried and Alfin realize something is going terribly wrong. Aster is starting to lose focus. The rage of his past life is boiling over. His eyes go dead and cold, radiating pure bloodlust. He remembers Darius laughing as he severed his arm. The Seven Wings magic starts flaring up dangerously around him. Darius's arrogance completely shatters. He realizes with absolute, terrifying certainty that Aster isn't just trying to win a duel. He is going to kill him. Darius starts screaming in desperation, begging Aster to stop. From the balcony, Alfin screams out, pleading for Aster to control himself. Aster pushes his blade down, his power exploding outward in a blinding flash of destructive energy. When the dust finally settles, the arena is dead quiet. Darius is slumped on the floor, shaking uncontrollably. His sword is snapped in half. Aster's blade is embedded deep into the stone floor, just inches away from Darius's face. But that's not even the best part. Darius was so terrified of dying that he actually wet himself, right there in front of the entire martial aristocracy. Aster stands over the trembling bully, totally snapping out of his rage trance. He looks down at the puddle, smirks, and drops the coldest callback of the century. Next time you should wear some rags, so you won't mind getting wet, cousin. Absolute, crushing humiliation. Aster turns his back on him, muttering to himself that he's not the helpless, wingless Ash anymore. He looks up to the balcony, sees the immense relief on Alfin's face, and feels completely satisfied. He won. But just as Aster thinks he can celebrate, the mood in the arena violently shifts from shock to absolute, paralyzing dread. Heavy, ominous footsteps echo against the stone floor, silencing the whispers instantly. A massive shadow stretches across the arena, projecting an aura of overwhelming intimidation. It's Duke Roderick Elmheim himself, the head of the main house, the tyrant. And he doesn't just look angry. He looks like a walking natural disaster. Darius, pathetic and terrified, scrambles to his feet and rushes toward his father. He points a shaking finger at Aster, his cockiness suddenly returning now that Daddy is here. He begs his father to teach the stray a lesson for defying the main house. But there is zero compassion in the Duke's cold eyes as he looks down at his pathetic, sniveling son. Suddenly, something smashes into Darius's hand with terrifying speed, literally pinning it to the ground. It's a sword. Darius screams in absolute shock, staring at his hand, the same hand that wields the four-wing crest. The entire arena gasps. Gryan, the younger brother, looks like he's going to pass out. Duke Roderick sneers. He coldly declares that a warrior who loses a duel so pathetically has absolutely no right to ever hold a sword again. With one brutal strike, the Duke just permanently stripped his own son of his warrior status and his future. The Duke prepares to deliver another devastating punishment to his son, but a voice rings out, cutting through the violence like a blade. Viscount Hyfried screams from the balcony for his brother to stop, but the room goes dead silent as someone else steps forward. It's Aster. Despite the overwhelming, suffocating killing intent radiating from the Duke, this 10-year-old kid steps right into the danger zone. The Duke glares down at this tiny challenger, his eyes burning with menace, demanding to know what the hell he thinks he's doing. He demands that his cousin apologize to his sister before any punishment is handed out. And to twist the knife, he has the absolute nerve to address the terrifying Duke as Uncle. The Duke looks at Aster with pure, unadulterated disgust, like looking at a bug that needs to be squashed. He immediately goes for a low blow, bringing up Aster's past. He twists the knife, calling Aster a stray orphan and questioning if wearing Elmheim clothes actually makes him think he has Elmheim blood. The Duke's eyes glow a menacing orange, and he ramps up the magical pressure, trying to force the boy to his knees. But Aster doesn't even flinch. He shouts back with absolute conviction, "I am the Viscount's son." He declares that family isn't just about blood. It's about the bonds, the teachings, and the pride of a knight that his father instilled in him. The Duke pauses. You can tell he's slightly taken aback by the kid's unbreakable resolve, but his face remains carved from stone. He lectures Aster, stating that as a member of the Branch family, he just humiliated the main house and its 12,000 knights. To the Duke, this isn't personal, it's strictly business. Up in the stands, a blue-haired noble watches with a smirk, clearly treating this life-or-death standoff like a movie. The Duke brings up a gruesome piece of family history. Viscount Highfried once offered up his own arm as the price for his disloyalty. The Duke stares down at Aster with his glowing orange eyes and asks a chilling question. What will you offer? He is literally demanding a pound of flesh from a 10-year-old boy. But Aster just grips his sword tighter. Sweat is pouring down his face, but he cleverly turns the Duke's own logic against him. He quotes the Duke's earlier words, stating that someone who cannot avenge an insult has no right to wield a sword. This wasn't a petty quarrel. It was a legitimate duel to defend the Viscount house. With burning determination, Aster declares he won't give up a single finger. The crowd is in utter disbelief. The blue-haired noble actually laughs out loud, amazed that a 10-year-old has guts made of pure titanium. Realizing words won't break the boy, the Duke decides to end it. He turns away slightly and commands Aster to draw his sword. It isn't a request, it's an execution order. Aster goes to draw his blade, his eyes focused, completely ready to face an impossible enemy. But he's too slow. The Duke raises his weapon, and the very air distorts around him. He unleashes a catastrophic, blinding pillar of destructive energy straight at Aster. Debris flies everywhere, and the ground literally cracks apart like an earthquake just hit. Alphen screams and covers her mouth in horror. Viscount Highfried screams his brother's name in pure terror. Unable to watch his son die, Highfried dashes off the balcony, drawing his sword in midair, and launches a desperate attack at the Duke. The Duke blocks Highfried's strike effortlessly without even looking back. But Highfried didn't attack to hurt the Duke. He used the clash to propel himself past his brother and sprint straight into the dust cloud, screaming Aster's name. The dust slowly settles. Highfried drops to his knees in shock. Aster is standing there. His sword is completely shattered. He is battered, bloody, and actually completely unconscious, but his sheer, unbreakable willpower is literally keeping him on his feet. He took a direct, lethal strike from the strongest man in the country and didn't even fall over. The entire arena of elite nobles is absolutely speechless. The Duke sees that the boy survived his execution strike. Knowing he can't realistically execute a 10-year-old who just survived a fair punishment without looking like a total monster, the Duke sheaths his weapon. He is furious, but he turns and walks away, his cape swirling dramatically as Darius hobbles pathetically behind him. The second the Duke leaves, Aster's adrenaline cuts out, and he finally collapses. Highfried catches him, frantic with worry. Aster looks up at his adoptive father with wide eyes and flashes a bright, exhausted smile. I protected it properly. He kept the 7 wings a secret, and he defended his family's honor. Highfried's stern expression completely melts. He looks down at his son and says the words Aster has waited 2 lifetimes to hear. You were magnificent. Up in the stands, the nobles are losing their minds. The blue-haired guy is calling Aster a rising star who just had the most spectacular social debut in history. Everyone is realizing that the Viscount house is no longer a joke. They are a massive threat. As the Duke walks away, he knows an age of upheaval is coming. And our boy Aster? He just announced himself to the world in the most epic way possible.
He didn't just survive the tyrant. He proved his worth. Cut to a stunningly beautiful day. Down in the training courtyard, Aster is moving like a blur of shadows and steel. He is currently sparring with the house soldiers, but calling it sparring feels like a massive insult to the word. He literally sends a fully grown, armored man flying through the air with a single upward strike that looks more like a cannon blast than a sword swing. The soldiers on the sidelines are watching this 10-year-old boy tear through their elite ranks, and they are completely losing their minds. Sweat is pouring down their faces, and it's definitely not from the heat. One of the guards stammers out that ever since Aster got back from the sword dance gathering, his training intensity has been straight up terrifying. Rumors have already spread like wildfire. This kid didn't just survive the event, he completely humiliated Duke Roderick's 3rd son in a duel. For the Branch family soldiers who have swallowed the main house's insults for years, this is the ultimate payback. But watching Aster in action is a whole different level of intimidating. He swings his wooden sword with such explosive speed that the air itself literally warps around the blade. He's dropping seasoned veterans left and right, his face locked in a mask of pure, unbothered focus. He isn't even breaking a sweat while grown men are hitting the dirt, gasping for air. Aster isn't just practicing. He's making a statement. He's proving that his performance at the gathering wasn't a fluke. It was a warning shot. But while the soldiers are busy marveling at his skill, Aster's internal monologue is completely different. He is analyzing his own movements with a cold, critical eye. He knows he showed enough power to shut up the nobles who called his adoptive family a disgrace. But that's just a surface-level victory. His real target is still the main Elmheim house. As he effortlessly deflects two attackers at once, his mind flashes back to Duke Roderick. The memory of that overwhelming, suffocating pressure is burned into his brain. Aster is brutally honest with himself. As he stands right now, he absolutely cannot beat the Duke. The gap in raw power is still way too massive. Aster possesses the legendary 7 wings, a reservoir of magic so infinitely deep it's practically a myth. But here is the ultimate shonen protagonist dilemma. Having the magic and actually controlling it are two completely different things. It's like owning a nuclear reactor, but having a faulty steering wheel. The dust clears, and the scene is just pure, non-lethal chaos. Dozens of elite soldiers are sprawled out on the cobblestones. He has literally beaten the entire garrison into submission. He sighs, realizing he accidentally went all out again. Just then, a familiar voice calls out from the balcony. It's his red-haired sister. But hold on. She isn't wearing her usual frilly, high society dress. She is decked out in a tight, functional training tunic and trousers, gripping a wooden sword of her own. Aster blinks in genuine surprise, pointing out that she used to complain that training outfits weren't cute. She just smiles, brushes a strand of hair from her face, and drops a surprisingly deep line about balance. Watching Aster risk his life to protect her family made her realize she can't just stay on the sidelines anymore. She wants to get stronger, too. She points her wooden sword at him with a playful smirk. When you get back, you're going to keep me company. Aster scratches his cheek nervously, smiling back. Please go easy on me. It's such a wholesome contrast. One second, he's a terrifying demon destroying the royal guard. And the next, he's just a little brother asking his sister not to beat him up. He's inspiring his entire family to finally stand tall. But playtime is over. Aster heads inside, knocks on a heavy wooden door, and steps into his father's office. Viscount Highfried is sitting behind his desk, looking regal but deeply exhausted, the sheer weight of leadership etched into his face. He motions for Aster to sit. Aster sits down, expecting a standard debrief or maybe a lecture on responsibility. But Highfried doesn't waste time with small talk. He slides a velvet cushion across the polished mahogany desk. Resting right in the center is a massive, glittering ring dominated by a huge red gemstone. Aster blinks. What's this? Highfried looks him dead in the eye and drops an absolute nuke. The proof of the next head of the house. I want you to inherit the Viscount house. Aster's golden eyes wide with shock. Highfried explains the harsh reality. The Branch family is in a delicate position. They govern a massive territory with a lot of enemies, and they simply cannot afford to leave the successor position vacant. Officially putting their strongest asset, Aster, in line for leadership is the ultimate flex to secure their future. But Aster isn't smiling. He immediately asks the one question that could tear the family apart. Are my sisters okay with this? It's a totally valid fear. Skipping over biological children to hand the keys to the castle to the adopted kid is a guaranteed recipe for drama. Highfried admits the sisters are returning from night school in 3 days, and he plans to break the news then. In Aster's mind, we get a glimpse of the two returning siblings. Sister Marfa looks elegant and chill, but Sister Kudo? She looks terrifyingly intense. Aster violently stands up and flat out refuses the ring. He drops a massive lore bomb, admitting that his lack of control over his magic nearly caused a tragedy with one of the girls in the past. He doesn't see himself as a strong leader. He sees himself as a walking liability, a ticking time bomb who can't even convince an angry sister to step aside, let alone govern territory. Highfried just leans back in his chair, a gentle, knowing smile on his face. He watches this 10-year-old kid list off a dozen mature, adult reasons why he isn't good enough, and chuckles. Realizing the ring was the wrong move, Highfried pulls out a long, narrow, ancient wooden box with brass fittings. He slides it across the desk. Aster opens the lid, and his golden eyes light up. Resting on dark velvet is a sleek, black-handled sword with intricate gold inlays and a glowing crimson gem in the crossguard. The weapon practically hums with power. Highfried introduces it, and the name lands like a thunderbolt. The magic sword, Graham. This isn't just a fancy blade. It is a magic devouring sword. a legendary weapon specifically designed to regulate and control overwhelming magical power. This is the exact bottleneck fix Aster has been praying for. It's the key to finally unlocking the 7 wings without nuking the entire mansion. We cut to a serene, quiet forest deep in the territory. Aster looks around, totally confused. Why couldn't we just use the training hall if we're just testing a sword? Hyfrey just looks at him deadpan and basically says, because you have a habit of completely destroying everything you touch. You know you are ridiculously overpowered when your dad has to drive you out to the middle of the wilderness just to make sure you don't accidentally level the family estate. But when Hyfried pulls the legendary sword Graham out of its sheath, Aster is completely baffled. It looks broken. It's literally just a hilt. There is no physical blade attached to it. Hyfried explains that this sword doesn't need a physical edge because it requires the wielder to channel their own magic to complete it. It is a weapon made of pure potential. To demonstrate, Hyfried grips the handle tight. Suddenly, a massive torrent of crimson energy explodes from the hilt. It instantly forms a massive, jagged blade of pure red lightning that crackles and hisses with terrifying intensity. It's like a medieval, unstable lightsaber. Before Aster even touches the hilt, Hyfrey drops a terrifying warning. The magic sword Graham isn't just a weapon. It is a literal mana vampire. If a knight with mediocre magic tries to ignite this cursed blade, it will drain their life force dry in seconds. It is the ultimate lethal test of pure magical capacity. Now, it's Aster's turn. He steps up, his golden eyes glowing. He takes a deep breath, grips the ancient black handle, and unleashes his power. And guys, calling the reaction massive is the understatement of the century. Graham doesn't just form a neat little sword. It detonates. A titanic, blinding beam of crimson light shoots straight out of the hilt and blasts directly into the heavens. We're talking about a literal orbital strike. The beam punches a hole right through the clouds, visibly warping the sky and shaking the entire atmosphere. Back at the manor's training courtyard, the exact same house guards Aster was absolutely destroying earlier are staring up at the sky in pure, sweating terror. They're completely losing their minds. Standing right there with them in the courtyard is his sister. Instead of panicking, she just looks up and lets out a heavy, exasperated sigh, because she knows exactly which overpowered 10-year-old is out there causing the sky to literally tear open. Back in the forest, the crimson light reflects in Hyfried's wide, shocked eyes. He watches this god-tier display and drops an absolute lore bomb. In the entire bloody history of the Elmheim family, no one has ever possessed a 7-wing crest. Aster is literally unprecedented. He is one of one. Hyfried explains that if Aster can actually master this overwhelming energy, he won't just be strong. He will completely eclipse the legendary 6-wing monsters like the Tyrant Duke and Hyfried himself. But then, Hyfried grabs Aster's hand, his face dead serious. This isn't just a power-up, it's a massive target on his back. If the world finds out about the 7 wings, Aster will become a magnet for absolute chaos. He will either be enslaved as a political superweapon or assassinated before he can grow up. Aster's mind instantly flashes back to his miserable past life. He knows exactly what powerlessness feels like, and he is never going back. He will master these wings, no matter the cost. Fast forward 3 days to the grand entrance of the manor. The tension is high, the staff is lined up, and the doors finally swing open. The older sisters have officially returned from night school. First up is Kadriavka, better known as Kudo, the highly energetic red-haired sister who we've been warned despises Aster. Right beside her is Marfa, the calm, elegant, silver-haired sister who responds to everything with a polite, aristocratic smile. Kudo immediately bursts into the hall with explosive golden retriever energy, screaming for hugs from her little sisters. But it is absolute chaos. The younger siblings literally scatter and dodge her like they're evading enemy fire, because Kudo always messes up their hair. It's hilarious. Kudo tries to flex, claiming she's mastered knightly etiquette while away at school, but she immediately ruins that lie by aggressively tackling Alphen for a cuddle. It is a super wholesome, chaotic family reunion, until the mood violently shifts. Marfa scans the grand hall. Her polite smile drops just a fraction as she realizes someone is missing. She asks the one question that instantly spikes the tension in the room. Where is Aster? Viscount Hyfried and the Viscountess just stand there looking incredibly awkward, desperately avoiding eye contact. They know exactly how complicated the relationship is between Aster and the fiery Kudo. And Kudo, her expression instantly darkens. The wholesome, happy reunion vibe evaporates into thin air. She realizes her little brother didn't even bother to show up to greet them. Meanwhile, oblivious to the political landmine he just stepped on at home, Aster is out in the middle of the woods, absolutely fighting for his life against his own weapon. He is drenched in sweat and panting heavily. He's been out here training nonstop with a magic sword Graham, but it is not going smoothly. Yeah, he can create the blade using his magic, but the problem is the sheer volume of it. But suppressing that massive, sky-piercing pillar of light into a condensed, usable weapon is taking every ounce of stamina he has. He leans on his knees, exhausted, questioning how the heck his adoptive father makes wielding this cursed sword look so effortless. Just as he's catching his breath, a cold voice cuts through the trees. Going all out again, I see. Aster completely freezes. He turns around, and stepping out of the shadows is Kudo. She is completely decked out in her knight trainee gear, looking every bit the formidable warrior. And spoiler alert, she is definitely not here for a welcome home hug. She glares at him, coldly pointing out that he was too busy to greet his own big sister. But she doesn't linger on the pleasantries for long. She immediately cuts to the real issue, listing off his recent jaw-dropping achievements with a painfully sharp edge in her voice. She knows all about the sword dance gathering, and she knows the night school is buzzing with rumors about the adopted stray who humbled the main house. Aster, trying to play defense and defuse the bomb, quickly interrupts to compliment her. He brings up the fact that she was the only trainee to receive the honor medal this year. But that is the absolute wrong thing to say. She bitterly snaps back that if she couldn't achieve at least a measly honor medal, she wouldn't even be fit to look at her father's position. And then, she drops the absolute hammer. She glares right into Aster's golden eyes and reveals she knows his biggest secret. She heard he turned down the position of heir. To Kudo, this isn't a sign of Aster being humble. This is the ultimate, unforgivable insult. She genuinely thinks Aster is refusing the title out of pity for her. She screams at him, asking if he was trying to be considerate. She feels like both Aster and their father are cruelly mocking her lifelong dream of leading the Viscount house by dangling the title in front of the adopted son, only for him to casually toss it aside. Aster desperately tries to explain that he genuinely doesn't feel qualified yet, but the words fall on deaf ears. Kudo's patience is completely gone. She draws her blade, the steel gleaming in the forest light. The air grows thick and heavy. The clash we have all been waiting for is finally here. An angry, honor medal-winning older sister versus an overpowered, reincarnated little brother who can't fully control his nuke of a sword. What do you guys of winning this family feud? If you want to see Aster and Kudo throw down in the next episode, you know what to do. Smash that like button, subscribe to Divine Recap, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss a single upload.